going to talk about is what we call it as a voluntary performance optimization. That comes from our ideal practice consulting company that they typically hire for a short term to resolve certain problems, and they figure out, well, that's we can't just optimize everything. Well, we probably can, but the nothing is not what we want to
Excuse me, I can't hear him.
might do that. So we have to figure out to focus on things which is important to optimize, and that is basically like a framework defining what is important and ways to apply your effort on those important things. So first of all, I would say when we speak about performance, there is a bunch of definitions. Actually, some scientific one which is exactly correct, but in the real world we really talk about different things as we speak about performance. Right? One of them is the latency or response time, some user interactions about some process. And what is important about it is always important. And even if somebody tells you what it is not important how long does it take, when ask him, well, is it okay if it completes in 20 years? Well, that's probably not the case, right? They think it's by what performance is not important. People typically mean, oh, it doesn't have to complete sub-second. We are okay to wait 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe even several hours. But the performance is important still. And the response time, what you would like to see varies on the application. It can be ranging to half an hour or many hours for what the report it needs, to like number of milliseconds or even less for some very interactive applications. Another aspect of performance is the capacity of throughput, right? Most systems are not designed to just serve a single person, and that's where response time is reached. They are designed to serve many users, and so the question is, okay, how many users I can really handle on the system? What is it to the throughput? That is when we speak about, okay, well, this system can handle 10,000 queries a second, right? Whatever, some message like this. Now, what is interesting here is, if we look at the real multi-user systems, typically both of them are important. We want both systems to have bigger social capacity, utilization, while at the same time maintaining performance. We can define it or just have it, feed it. Okay, well, if we get too much load on the system, the site is not responding well, or we have some very strict guidelines like every page you have to be served in, let's say 100 milliseconds or less. And the idea here is what the response time tends to increase as we throw. And I don't have a picture about it because I don't like pictures, but I don't like drawing pictures. But the idea here is like some of the exponential what people call the hockey stick. But it's even more than that. You can see what at a certain point when you get put too much load in the system, you start getting the errors in the line, or in the mathematical sense, your response time will just go to infinity because the system will just constantly queue more and more requests before. And what I like to align this to is something like a call center, like very basic and understandable terms. You can put some people in the call center, right? A few people which respond to calls. Well, that will mean you will have a very, let's say, few resources you have to spend on those. But that means in the peak times, the response time will be bad. I mean, I think you probably all experienced waiting for a long time, to get the response from whatever our organization we're calling, and hanging up and calling back later and being less busy. And that is exactly the same what happens with the website, right? Users may not get inside to respond to basically idle overtime, and keeping people or servers idle, that means wasting your money. So as a goal for performance optimization in practical sense, you typically see like either it's maximizing the capacity of utilization while maintaining the response time in certain guidelines, which you may have well defined, or which you may have like very subjective. I want my site to feel fast. Now, how do we measure that response time? Because again, well, if you want to just apply some semi-scientific approach, you better have some variables. And in a lot of times, I see people measuring like average or median response time, and really that is not very good for response time, because it doesn't really tell us the story. It's like the average temperature in the hospital. Some people are having sleep fever, others are dead. So the average temperature is kind of is about okay. Well, that doesn't tell us. What is good about the average time, I think, is historical trend. If you look at it in the history framework, then as the load grows, you can generally see what your average response time increases, right? The maximum response time is also not really good, because most systems in the database, they're not designed really as a hard real-time systems. There are going to be some weird cases, network latency, wherever some operation system things and stuff like that, which will be relatively high. So if you look at pretty much any system which serves like millions and millions of requests, you will see what the maximum will be like fine. So what really makes sense to do is to define sort of percentile response time, or actually set. For example, you can say, okay, I want 95% request to be served within 500 milliseconds. Right? That means what your 95 percentile goal is 500 milliseconds. And then you can expand and say, at the same time, I want 99% within 1 second. Right? But I would say for a general performance optimization goal, going with something is like simple one definition is good enough. Now, what kind of percentile you use? Well, that depends. I would say, I remember some Amazon guy talking, and I think they use something 99.9%. Right? So they want only to have 999 out of 1,000 requests to be fast, and only 1,000. I think, like for general purpose, like 95 percentile or 99 percentile is already quite decent. Now, here's another funny thing about response time. And that's probably also goes back to the same uptime. Things can be different, right? If the system has a certain response time, well, what is 95 response time, right? We can say, okay, there is 24 hours in the day. So if system behaves very fast, 23 hours, and 1 hour is pretty much crowded and has insane response time, our 95 response time will be still good. But probably our user experience will go down, right? Because we have a whole 1 hour, which is tremendously slow. So then you're looking at response time. You want typically that to be even in the time, right? Don't measure just response time over the whole day. Measure 95 time each minute or each 5 minutes, so that there's a short interval, and make sure it's uniformly met all the time. And that's really much more difficult problem than you can imagine. In a lot of cases, people have some cron jobs, backup, stuff like that, and when they sleep, they use the sun, because at night it happens to be quite slow. It's also important to think about that user experience, because it's completely completely different things when you come to websites. Well, it's loads slowly. What you would expect? I don't know about you. I will think, well, my network is glitching, right, or something like that, or internet, packet loss, whatever. I would press reload. And if site loads fast now, then, well, that's okay, right? That's not their fault. That's probably something else. But now, if you have things you just got installed and your user presses reload once, 2, 3 times, and it's still slow, then you say, well, that's a crappy site. Let's go somewhere else. So, if you are to have some performance problems, you better to actually, like isolated incidents rather than those like, long time that things just don't work. The next step is an object or user interaction, whatever you want to call it. And I would say what not all the aspects of user interactions are created equal. For example, when they're using some interface and things like attractive stuff, we have very high response time requirements. Right? Or they want response time to be very low. Because even if you have, you press on sort of things and objects when you're supposed to about, even 100 milliseconds will feel like a certain delay. Now, if you go to some search functionality in websites, right? Then I don't know, like Travelocity or Expedia is looking for a favorites for you. Well, it takes you 2 seconds, right? And we kind of expect it to take some time, right? There's also certain measures taken to show you what it's going to take some time. So the point here is what different interaction on your website may well have very different response time, and you should measure that separately. Otherwise, you'll kind of average it between elephant and mice, which doesn't make sense. And finally, I'd like to kind of make a bit of a difference here about who the client is. And I would say that different people could argue what is more important. I would say somebody says, hey, you know what, search engine bots are more important for us than our real user because bring us traffic and traffic means money. But what is important here is what different kinds of interactions may have performance criteria attached. For example, human beings, they wait for websites, they're impatient, right? On the other hand, if you speak about bots, which can take very significant traffic for some systems, they are okay, waiting, 1 second. So they know that's critical. And what is also important here is what bots behavior in many cases is different from a user, right? For example, when I would go to the website and see, okay, who is that guy who always goes to search page number 500 and then 501? I mean, people don't do it, right? People will look at the first page result, maybe some will go to second or third, right? Nobody goes to page number 500. While some bots, which try to kind of crowd your site, they may well do that, right? Also, people often visit the same pages, while bots try to say, okay, well, we're indexing the website, so we will go to all the different pages. So the cache aspect is completely different. And that all means that bots can have completely different performance. Another aspect is also web services. Some of web services can be non-performance critical, like people are running some batch process and they're using your web service to get certain information. While another web services, they can be very performance critical, even more than the humans, because for a lot of applications you can see somebody else's application generates a web page, has to do access their own database and do some other computation stuff, and also it has some remote calls to your web service to generate part of the data, right? So if they want to respond within 100 milliseconds, then that means you have to respond within like 20 milliseconds, something like that, right? For them to be able to meet it. So web services can be even more performance critical than real people. And I think that's the last thing. I know it's going to be complicated, like, well, performance, but it's just to measure that and get the same number. But the last thing that I'd like to do, this last part, is what I would like microservices offer, you give your users a lot of freedom to kind of to really do bad things to you, right? And but one thing in this case is also in many cases the users which you make you suffer can always also be your best clients, right? In my example, if you have some vendor which sells, let's say, 5 items on your shop, and another vendor which lists 1 million items on your shop for sale, well, who is likely to bring more revenue? That's for the second one, right? You want to get this guy is exactly happy, so then you measure, make sure you don't have certain users, certain pages, and some conditions which are always slow, because that may make you suffer. And there's multiple ways you can really approach that. For example, I remember LiveJournal for a lot of time, they had a limit of number of friends we had. I think it was like 700 or something like that. Why? Well, because the system simply couldn't perform well if you have more. So instead of allowing you to have more friends, and then make you suffer and complain every day how miserable the site is, right, that it cannot really perform well, they simply say, hey, you know what, we only allow you as much as you go. Another example was probably, I mentioned this, like, go to page number of, 1 million, blah, 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 it's expensive. And what Google does is say, hey, you know what, you can actually go to up to 1,000 results or something like that. We won't give you more. Why? Well, because it's expensive for us to provide those results for you while remaining funds. I mean, it's well possible, right? That probably, if you want to maintain the same response time guidelines, that means you have to provide more hardware, while very few people need it. Finally, we should get to a point, what exactly do you want to measure? And if you look at that, there's multiple aspects here. One of them is the client-side performance, and people like, Keynote, Gomez can help you to measure how much it takes full-time to load the page. Because we have to understand, well, in a lot of cases, we focus on how much it takes to generate an HTML, XML, whatever page. But really, people have to get a lot of images, JavaScript, render a page, which also takes a lot of a lot of time. That's like really fun actually, because you listen to Steve Sodders, and he's the guy who really works on client-side performance. He said, well, you know what, 70% or whatever of response time is actually this client. It's not your HTML page. And that is true for some applications which are relatively well optimized. But if you come to some people and they have like 30 seconds response time to generate is like HTML page, well, in this case it was 500 milliseconds or whatever it takes to fetch all the images, JavaScript, and other kind of stuff. You can also do client-side instrumentation, because there's a bunch of stuff which shows you user level response time for your pages as they are browsed by really users. And then we also can do instrumentation and backend. And that's what I'm going to speak about today, because that's where database typically is. So, as a small summary of this section, I'll simply say what you have to define will get something. I mean, the real production will always give you some surprises or something you don't understand. And test system is great for debugging, for testing, but it wouldn't show you every Now, I think it's very helpful if you can run instrumented application production and store the data. I will show you what instrumentation happens. Now, I think a lot of people very overestimate how much performance overhead it gives to instrument applications. You can do a lot of instrumentation probably within 5% performance overhead. And believe me, if you have instrumentation, you probably will get the same performance, those same 5% performance back in a few hours by finding the places which needs optimization in production. And also, if the performance overhead is too large, well, it's very easy to do, like providize and instrument only portion of that. You can, like, one approach I know is providize and you start a session instrument like a certain percentage of my sessions. Another approach would be, okay, I have like my 20 web servers, and I will only instrument one of them. Yet another approach, if you want that to be completely not a part of performance, would be, okay, I have this load balancer stuff which I can set up in traffic metering. So some of my requests will go both to my real web server and as well as some other shared web server, right? And I can instrument that. But you have to be careful because if you duplicate traffic to the same infrastructure, you can get different behavior. Like, for example, Memcache, right? Hit rate can be very different if you do each request twice for the passing the infrastructure. But basically, that is achievable, and that is very, very helpful. So, what do we want to instrument? So, when request times, well, we want to understand the total response time, workload time, how much it really takes, how much the user or whatever requester was waiting for. We also want to understand the CPU time. That's a interpretation. And we want to understand all the rest. All the rest we can call it wait time. We were waiting on something, what we did. We waited on this I/O, we can wait on network, MySQL or Memcache. We can be also waiting in the queue in operation system when like all the CPUs are busy, right? And you're just waiting for CPUs to become free. And then in the wait time, we want typically to measure connections, database queries, Memcache, some web service requests we have ready, and other network requests, like some A5, I/O can do that. And also, I like to have some other information about number and nature of different tools, what you might have, like maybe how many Memcache hits there's missing behind, right? Or some other information which is helpful to understand later on why this given request or slow. Now, where can we store that? Say? Oh, yeah.
I've seen many cases where you can work with the server.
Yes. Well, yeah, absolutely. So the point here is absolutely, that is something like if you use like you're doing that from a client perspective. It's very helpful to instrument the stuff on the database as well, but numbers would be different. And because of the networking case, right? You can see the query it takes, let's say 5 milliseconds. If you look at the client side, it takes fractions of milliseconds to go to the server side. And that is that can add up to lot.
You mean being able to subtract the actual network transport time compared to what the server's actually
Or you may have a network problem. Everything is working with the server, but the client doesn't get it.
So it appears that the database is
Yeah, and that's I would say that is so many people don't really figure out what the network is. I would say like, we have local database works fine, but we also have people who access that from LA or wherever, and it's local. And say, okay, well, maybe that's the network. No, that's really the network. The network is fast. It's 1 gigabit. Okay, how many queries do you have for this contractor? Oh well, that's 2,000 want to store this stuff?
15 minutes.
15 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I can.
No problem.
So where do you want to store this? So we can store our stuff directly to the database on the small system, and that is quite helpful because you can just write your little SQL requests, and it just works. Very cool. Just like several servers you can do it. You can store them in the log files. If you really use a large scale, you can put them analyze something in Hadoop and do stuff like that. And the two ways you deal with data is typically generate some standard reports. So, for example, on a daily or weekly basis, where you can get some sort of a review of your system, how it performs, because you want to understand the trend. If you see things are getting kind of slower, you can see what kind of curve we are going to, right? It's expected, it's acceptable. And also to provide some ad hoc analysis, because in a lot of cases you will scratch your head to understand, okay, what exactly are conditions which make my things be slow. Like here's like from one of their clients, which we store the data in the MySQL database. And to keep it simple, we just create a new log file for every day, so you can just store like 100 million events a day. Just throw it. And as you can see, I'm not sure how people like it, we store it. I have this like web server which goes request and all kind of like page, a bunch of times. We start doing this also. Speaks so measurable for the SQL time. And then other aspects like for example, we can see what kind of request that is in page time. And we can also see if that was a bot, if that was a real and that is how things look, right? So we can see workload time, user time, actual time, and all kind of this. Things where the time comes from. Now, the interesting part. What we can do with very simple SQL things. And in this case, I'm using like average, even if I say 95 percentile is much more important. Well, because average is simply much more simple than SQL queries. Unfortunately, there is no like percentile function to task multi-dot. I'm saying there is no aggregate functions to get percentile from columns. Percentile, if I want to get, if I have like response time and I want to get like 95 percentile or something like that.
You can do it in a single pass. Roland Fogan did a blog post on how to do it.
Yeah, I know, but I actually also did that stuff how to do that. It's kind of just, it's not so beautiful.
Yeah.
The SQL would be feed into a slide so nice. But what you can do is very efficient. So what you can see here, you can see what the average response time was taking 1.2 seconds. And that's probably before we optimize something. What we can see, and the rest I measured the percentages, right? We can see what the CPU was responsible for 7%, the MySQL was responsible for another 15%, and the Sphinx was responsible for 60%. Right? And then they also have such 6% of the rest. That is something, the amount which is not instrumental. And what can we see from this information? There is a bunch of very important things. First of all, we can see what should we focus on, right? If we get rid of like MySQL, we optimize the way it's completely, becomes 10 times faster. Well, we can still shave off, in average, only 50% of response time, right? So it's not very helpful to optimize to start with, right? There's no like need. Now, at the same time, if we optimize Sphinx well, in this case, we can reduce average response time to over half. Another important thing here to understand is how good our instrumentation is. We can see what from the total time we got, we instrumented like 94% of the total time. And that is very good number. There is always going to be some time which is lost with non-instrument. would see in this case was, let's say, rest would be 70%. That would mean my instrumentation is completely useless because I don't know what is happening, right? And that is a very good measurement of what the instrumentation is. So we can also see the average time, right? And we can see what the average response time flows in different hours, and we can also see what really the distribution really changes. There is, let's say, certain times when things like indexes are repeated, so response time is attributed to things becomes larger, right, than in other times. And again, I'm saying that it's good to look at that in even more granular intervals than an hour. Now what we can do is figure out in terms of what our goal line is. We can say, for example, okay, well, we want to have our search to complete within 1 second. And what is interesting here is what the performance properties of your fast queries doesn't have to be the same as for the slow queries, right? For example, you can say, oh, our fast queries, they are getting over memcache hits. So they are bound by memcache, right? Because we don't even type MySQL at all. That's the fast queries. And your slow queries are slow because of memcache misses, and they are bound by MySQL. So when you look at the query profile, even the queries, let's say page profiles of the same type, it doesn't have to have the same performance profile. It can be bound by completely different things. And in this case, by saying, okay, I'm not interested in the pages which are faster than 1 second. I don't care. They are already fast enough already. So what is wrong with pages which are slower than 1 second? Why they're wrong? What is it? Right? And in this case, we can see there's no surprises here, right? Well, let's say that actually, if you go to the slowest pages, the Sphinx is even bigger bottleneck. Right? So we can see that. Now, what we can also look at and say, okay, well, can we identify any given requests which are good? And in this case, we can see there is like some even funky page which was requested like 20 times in this interval, which had a pretty bad response time. And that's very helpful because now we can really focus work with profiling and analysis of the single given requests, which is much easier than trying to work with some large number of requests that don't get good from. So now what we can do here is we can go back to the Sphinx and analyze why queries are slow. And there's multiple queries on the page. What we are doing here, and that is something that MySQL doesn't have easily, but Sphinx has. What we try to do is we try to enumerate each page request. Just give it some, random identifier. With MySQL, we can just pass it as a comment to the queries. With Sphinx, you can actually pass an API call and say, well, that responds to page XYZ, which is helpful because now we can go to several logs, and for given page which you identify which was slow, we can identify in the logs all requests which came from this page request, which is very helpful. And in the Sphinx, well, we can see in this case with profiling. This query is fast, but that's just an example, right? What it took like 11 milliseconds and 7.2 milliseconds of that was depending on the IO, right? So we can understand, well, we're bound to things and we also IO bound for our slow requests, right? We want maybe faster hard drives and maybe more memory. Now, in this case, guys, can you tell me what do you expect to optimize this stuff? Do we need more memory or do we need faster disks? So it was 2 IOs which took 7.2 milliseconds. Okay, so in this case, right, because we can see our IOs taking like about 3.5 milliseconds. This is fast, right? That's very good for normal hard drives. So if you would have to see your IOs taking like the average latency for IOs being like 30 milliseconds, 50 So what do you optimize for? Well, you start with is most important, right? Optimize most important user interactions. Pick the cases which you want to focus on. That's typically what like the queries or requests which don't fit your response time guidelines. And don't look worst case scenario. See something like typical case in most of those cases, because there's always going to be outliers, right? And you know, if one of and what is also important here is when you focus and you pick the queries, try to kind of move this curve interval more, right? I say look at one queries, 1 second queries, or queries taking more than 1 second before we do 1 second response time. Well, that wouldn't be 1 second, 95% of response time. That would be a good thing to do, right? You probably better off to look at all the queries which are more than 500 milliseconds, something like that. But you need to have some brief average queries and 95 response time to be able to So the benefit of that approach is, well, I think it's very good because it has a direct connection to business goals, right? There's a lot of literature out there which kind of connects the response time to the, you know, how sticky your users become on the site, how much they buy, and all this kind of stuff, right? So it's relatively easy to speak to business people regarding stuff like that and connect it to business goals. They also target high performance, and you don't get any guesswork. Like alternative approaches to say, okay, well, is my hit rate is too bad, right? Or you know, some other random stuff to do things by just trying to get lucky, trying to think what fixing that thing will give you results, not what you look for. And also what we do here, we get a very critical result. We understand what we can get in advance. If we see what the MySQL is response to 50% response time, we know by our optimization, right, we can what we can get tops, right? And really, as you understand what kind of queries responsible with response time, you also will see how much you can optimize them by indexing, by